Crowley wrote a line that goes, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will." We don't teach Thelema here. That's not the purpose of this channel. That line reflects a universal truth, and it's not limited to the practice of Thelema or Crowley's version of magic. The divine will, your true will, is that which is your true purpose. If you've aligned your personal will with your true will, you're unstoppable because you have the will of the entire universe behind you. By itself, your true will is enough. If it is your true will, it's guided by the law of love. The law of love is the law out of which all creation flows. My teacher back in the day taught that all emotions have attached desires. Wherever you have an emotion, there is a desire attached to it. And that all emotions can be classified under two basic categories: emotions that are based on love and emotions that are based on fear. And each of those emotions will have different desires attached to them, which can give you a clue as to what emotion you're experiencing. Sometimes our ego is really sly and says, this is love. But if you question, what are the desires attached to what I'm feeling? You can tell whether it's truly love or not. Love, it was taught to me, is a relaxed emotion. You can tell if you're experiencing love based on the lack of tension, based on the lack of defenses that you have. And the desire attached to love stems from something to do with connecting, healing, bringing joy, and or relieving pain and suffering. The desires attached to fear usually have to do with disconnecting, defending, running away, or attacking. It's easy to get caught up in the minutia of the moment and not analyze which emotion we're coming from. Emotions are powerful things. Emotions are forces. They are currents of energy that have repercussions. They have the ability to cause. The effects from these currents of energy are profound. Which currents of energy we allow ourselves to indulge in are our responsibility. Out of those indulgences, the effects come, and we're responsible for those effects. It's easy for the ego to say, oh, no, you're not responsible for this, you're not responsible for that, and make you stay in that victim mentality where you're not responsible for anything. Everything's happening to you, and you can pretty much feel anything you want to feel, do anything you want to do, because you are a victim of the universe, and you have no power. That's what the ego wants to convince you. It does that to fulfill its function, for you to experience your life as if you are separate and alone and powerless, ultimately to destroy you. That's not what love is. The ego does not understand love. The ego was not born from love. The ego is a product of fearful thinking. It's a self-fulfilling habit. When people understand that, and then they understand the idea of the metaphysics of the universe, how things work, they understand that whatever current of energy they're indulging in has its effect that is reflected as form and function and circumstance in the world. The ego wants you to not feel responsible at all for the effects in your life, and it'll show you why you're not responsible for any of it. And the reason it does that is to keep you powerless, to keep you feeling powerless, because you aren't powerless. You never were powerless. You can't be powerless. You're very powerful. If you don't access your power and you believe that you're powerless, you get to waste a lot of time, and that's the ego's game, time wasting. But if you understood that you are a creature of love, that you were created out of love, and that the current of love is your heritage and where your true will lies, and where you have all the power to create change that you desire in the world, if you understood that, the ego wouldn't even be something you would consider. It would be laughable. You'd laugh at it because it's funny. But because the ego's very good at convincing us otherwise, we retreat, we pull back, and we indulge in fearful emotions. We believe what the ego teaches us, that those fearful emotions are somehow keeping us safe. If we didn't believe that we were vulnerable, that we needed protection, and that we could run to the ego for that protection, we would never consider the idea of fearful emotions. It wouldn't even be something that would be on our radar. But because we've convinced ourselves we can find protection and safety in these fearful emotions, even though we don't label them as such usually, then we are stuck in a cocoon of fear, thinking that we're safe from that horrible experience out there, which is ultimately what we're trying to protect ourselves from. Ultimately, what we're trying to protect ourselves from is love. We are trying to protect ourselves from the very current of energy that is all healing. It's kind of crazy, isn't it, when you think of it, that we would want to protect ourselves from love because somehow love is going to hurt us. But that's because the ego knows that love is going to destroy it, like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. When love exposes the ego for what it is, we realize that it was nothing and that we can disregard it completely. And that's the only thing that the ego can't protect itself from, is you disregarding it. When you disregard the ego, it has no power over you. The only power it has over any of us is the power we give it through our own power of decision, our own power of choice. All of those fearful experiences we are having are a ploy to try to keep us from our true will, our magical will, our purpose here. It's important for us to look at that. Question, what am I desiring? What is my motivation here? Not judge ourselves, just look at it for what it is. Am I trying to protect myself from something? Am I trying to destroy something? Am I trying to attack something? Am I trying to retreat from something? Am I trying to hide from something? This isn't bad. None of that's wrong. But it is showing us which current of energy we are operating under. Are we operating under the current of fear, or are we operating under the current of love? The current of love doesn't have fear. In angel magic, the divine quality called love is under the rulership of Venus and the archangel Anael. The ego will take the idea of Anael and love and Venus and say, oh, isn't that a sweet little pink angel? And diminish what that means. Diminish the idea of love as being so silly and lots of hearts and glitter. Those things are fine. I have no problem with hearts and glitter. But the ego will use those kinds of images to diminish the power of what love actually is in our experience. Oh, that's so sweet. Love is the force that undoes fear. Love is the fiercest force there is. Any force that can undo fear can undo any problem, any disease, any issue. I don't care how bad the ego tries to convince us something is. Evil dictator, evil virus, evil economy. What the ego will do with those things, the evil dictator, the evil virus, the evil economy, whatever it's trying to convince us is so powerful, it convinces us to retreat or to attack, fight or flight. Love doesn't understand fight or flight. When love is involved in any situation, it has at its core a sense of peace and the desire to bring healing, the desire to connect with. Love, as nothing more than an expression of what it is, undoes all the fear, undoes all the problems. That's why love is the healing force of the universe. That's why love, quote, conquers all. In the Kabbalah, sphere number 7 is called victory. And that's where the divine love of the universe sits. The principle of love itself sits on sphere number 7. And it's victory. That's not a mistake. But people think of victory and they think, shouldn't that be where Mars is on sphere number 5, war? No, not at all. The victory of Venus is different. The victory of love is different. The victory of love is a given because there is nothing to fight against. any more than there's the ability for the darkness in the room to fight against the light when you turn it on. There's no fight, there's only victory. Love is victory. Love is victorious by nature, and nothing can undo that. It's important for us to question when we start to belittle the idea of love. Ego is threatened by love, so it wants to diminish it. It wants to make it into something that's sweet and cute, not the fierce power of the divine creator that it really is. When we think of love, sometimes we think of romantic love. But if you think about what romantic love is, sometimes it's love. Sometimes there's a desire to heal, to connect within a peaceful experience. But more frequently, what we call romantic love isn't love at all. It's fearful. It's the desire to manipulate. It's the desire to trap. It's the desire to have a bodily experience with somebody to prove to yourself that you're good enough. That's not love. It's something, but it's not love. It can grow into love, but a lot of times those initial romantic experiences are labeled love, but they're not love. They're a type of mutual fear. If you stay with it long enough and invite love into the experience, it can grow into love. But usually by the time it starts to grow into love, that's about the time when the so-called romance is dying out, that eros love is dying out. So love is working to heal the relationship. Love is working to bring them together. But since it doesn't have the intensity of what we called love from the beginning, we think that love is dying. And that's when we start to look for somebody else or get a divorce or break up, because we believe love is that first emotion where we had a lot of excitement and I got to manipulate you and you got to manipulate me. We got to love bomb each other. We got to do all these fun things that had nothing to do with love. We really misunderstand what we think love is. And one of the ways that we misunderstand it is through romance. I'm not downing romance. Romance has its place and it's a lot of fun, but we have to understand that's not necessarily love. Sometimes it is, and it can very much grow into love, but the growing into love from romance frequently is misinterpreted by the ego, and we move on away from the relationship rather than allowing that love to grow, allowing that love to mature into something even greater. Love is not limited to romantic love or sexual love or marital love. Love is greater than that. Love is any time we are in a state of peace, that we are desiring to be truly helpful, desiring nothing more than seeing somebody's pain and suffering eased, desiring nothing more than the very best for someone else. That's the power that can overcome any problem, no matter what it is. It is an electric force, and it radiates outward, and it's attractive. If you really get into being in a loving space and finding that place of peace and relaxation and finding those vibrations where you want nothing more than to be a force for help and healing, no matter who's coming into your orbit, you become very attractive to the people and situations in your life that are good for you. Not only the people that can benefit from your love, but the people that you can benefit from as well. Love is very intelligent. It knows exactly what to do, where to go, how to get there, what to do once you're there. It's very efficient, and it's compelling and attractive. If you really do commit to being in that loving vibration, everything falls into place in perfect, wonderful ways. The idea of kindness isn't something that you have to choose. It's spontaneous. The ego will say, you're going to be victimized. You're going to be victimized if you're just kind and loving all the time. You're going to fall prey. But that's not true. That's not true. Love is not a victim. Love is not stupid. Love is fierce. And love does conquer all. And in that way, love is a destroyer because it destroys everything that's unlike itself. Not because it's fighting it, like we said earlier, but because it is victory. In its presence, anything unlike itself can't exist Love cannot be victimized. So don't blame love if you're being victimized. Love is going to save you from that. And like we say many times, sometimes the most loving thing to do is say no to somebody. Sometimes the most loving thing to do is to remove yourself from a situation. If you can't be in a situation where your love can radiate and your true will can be intact and you are doing nothing more than what you came here to do, love is going to see to it that you're out of that situation so that it can thrive. Don't believe the idea that being too kind and being too loving makes you a victim, because it's impossible. Love is a force. Love brings up everything unlike itself. Sometimes a very loving person can spontaneously cause people to react negatively. And that's not always a bad thing. In our day and age, when somebody brings up a bunch of stuff in another person, they say, oh, have you ever thought it's you? That the reason why they're reacting is because you're the problem? If you look at Jesus, he brought stuff up in everybody. If he was in this day and age, I could just see all of those followers saying, oh, Jesus, don't you think maybe you're the problem? You're the common denominator in all of this, aren't you? Love brings up things in order to heal. Sometimes when you're in a really loving place, some of the people around you are going to react. You just have to let them and not take it personally. Now, obviously, again, like I said, if there's some sort of abuse happening or if you're not safe in their presence, love is going to make sure that you're removed from that situation. But it's okay if you're in a loving place and not everybody responds the way that you want them to, because sometimes a healing needs to happen. And sometimes the way that healing happens is that stuff that's not been dealt with comes up to the surface so that it can be released or healed. That's another important experience when we are dealing with this force of love. Love brings up everything unlike itself in order to heal. A lot of times our physical ailments could use that love energy, especially if they are a response to stress. So many of our physical ailments are a response to stress. What is stress? Stress isn't loving. Stress is a fear response. What is the antidote to fear? Love. So when you are immersing yourself in that current of love, many of those stress-related illnesses start to drop away right before your very eyes. A lot of our financial problems are stress-related or fear responses. A lot of the financial problems we've dealt with for years or generations start to dissolve when we allow ourselves to sit in that love power, that current of love. And that's our motivator. That's where we find our true will, right? Is in that current of love. Love is the law, love under will. When you find that peaceful experience that wants nothing more than to be helpful, and you follow along with that, you can't go wrong. You're listening to a voice within you that is the voice for love, not the voice for fear. Now, sometimes that voice for love is going to have you go into situations where it doesn't appear to be loving. Sometimes you might even raise your voice temporarily when you're being loving. Sometimes you may actually kick somebody out of your home. Under extreme circumstances, a loving person might even engage in temporary physical combat in order to stop an abuser or stop an attacker. Remember, love is victory. So sometimes it doesn't appear loving to the naked eye, but you can tell it's loving by the way you feel. What you're there to do is help. What you're there to do is heal. You're coming in peace. There's a campaign in this world that's been going on for thousands of years that love is weak, and that love is for suckers, and that love is wimpy. The truth is, there are only two forces in this world. There's the force of love, and there's the force of fear. And if you're involved with the force of love, the force of fear can't exist in its presence. Therefore, there's really only one force, ultimately, and that's love. Love can't be destroyed. Fear can. And the only way that it can appear as though love has been destroyed is when fear convinces us to not be involved in it. When fear convinces us to retreat and to attack and to defend against the very force of love itself. The voice of fear is using our power against ourselves. It understands that on its own, it's nothing. Fear is nothing more than a parasite. It has no life force. It feels like it does, but it doesn't. It just uses your life force against you through convincing you not to be loving, by convincing you that love is either something to fear or something to pity. You roll your eyes at people who are loving. I hear that all the time. Oh, you're nothing more than love and light. If only I was nothing more than love or light, I'd be the most powerful person I'd ever been. I'd love that if I was nothing more than love and light. As if that was a bad goal, as if that was something wimpy and ineffectual. That's the lie. What's powerful is attack. What's powerful is cruelty. We roll our eyes about love because love, we've decided, is ditzy, wimpy, silly, and worthy of our mockery and ridicule. When in reality, it is the substance out of which all life is extended. And you are an extension of love. That's what you are at your core. You can't undo that. It's the truth of who you are. And to the degree that you decide against love, you are deciding against yourself and allowing yourself to be in a false world of your own making, where you're isolated and fearful and have no true companions. You have mere allies with other people who agree with you to defend against love and to mock love and to ridicule love, to not want to be part of the solution, to not want to honor the desire to heal, the desire to connect, the desire to relieve suffering and pain. Love is a constant source of victory. So if you need victory, you need love. Just look on your tree of life. Look on that hermetic tree. If you need victory in a situation, then you need love, not fear. You need love, not attack. Love is a constant outpouring. Its compassion is endless. If you want love to be compassionate to you, the way that you do that is by giving it, is by stretching forth that compassion outward. That's the law of the universe. You get what you give. What you give is what you receive. It's not that it comes back to you, although it can appear to do that in the physical realm because there is time here. But in reality, giving is receiving. And giving is expansion, meaning that what you give comes back to you multiplied. If you're giving love, nothing can go up against it. Nothing can. And if something's going up against it, you weren't giving love. You were giving something else. Love never fails. It can't. Whatever the problem is, there is a loving response to that problem that is the healing response. If we allow ourselves to commit to love as being the bottom line in our lives, how do I know that it's loving? Well, is it peaceful? And what are my desires? What do I want? What is my ultimate desire here? Do I want to heal? Do I want to connect? Or do I want to destroy? Do I want to attack? Do I want revenge? That's not love. It's normal, and I'm not saying it's wrong, but if you're asking, is it love or fear, you can tell. Just by asking, what's my motivation? What is my desire? And am I in a place of peace or not? And if you've determined that it's not love, nobody gets to tell you no, because do what you will. But if you truly are asking because you want to be in a loving place, once you've determined it's not love, then you can adjust, you can shift, and you can say, but I do want love. So I'm going to ask. I'm going to get quiet. I'm going to find as much peace as I can in this moment. And I'm going to ask, what's the most loving response here? And you'll be shown. Like I said, love isn't stupid. It's not wimpy. It'll show you what the response is. If you respond out of love, then you're responding out of that power in the universe that is victory. And you can't help but be victorious in any situation if love is the power that you're using. If fear is the power you're using, and sometimes fear doesn't look scared. It's really important to understand this, that fear sometimes looks real mighty. because it attacks, it has barricades, it has tanks, it has guns, it has all this stuff that makes it seem fierce. But those are all instruments of fear. Ask yourself, what's the motivation? Is it relaxed? Is it peaceful? No? Well, then it's probably not love. Does it want to heal? Does it want to connect? Does it want to relieve pain and suffering? No? Well, then it's not love. It's fear. Therefore, it's vulnerable. It's vulnerable to me. That's why loving your enemies is not something that's just sweet. It's not sweet. It's victory. That's how you overcome it. Whatever the problem is, you overcome it through the power of love. Nothing else works. We always try other things, but when you come back to love, it works. And you can prove it to yourself. But you have to be clear and honest with yourself. You can't just label something love and make it love. Ask yourself, does it fit the criteria of love? Is it peaceful? Do I want to connect? Do I want to be truly helpful? If so, then it's love. And you can't help but be successful. You can't help but be victorious. If you're listening to the voice for love rather than the voice for fear, you'll be shown, you'll be taught, you'll be guided. You're not alone. You're not by yourself. And you'll get what you want to get out of life. And not everybody will look to you and say, oh, aren't they loving? Because it doesn't always look like love to everybody. You don't need people to think you're loving. You need to be loving. There's a big difference. A lot of people give the impression of being loving and they're anything but. So it doesn't matter what other people think of you. It doesn't matter if they recognize what you're doing or not. You know, based on the criteria that we've given you today, whether it's love or whether it's fear. And it's up to you which voice you listen to. And if you don't listen to the loving voice and you listen to the fearful voice, you're not bad. Nobody's judging you. It's just then you get what you get. And you will always have the opportunity to make another choice for love again and again and again, each and every moment. And that's up to you. It's completely up to you. You have a lot of power in any situation, and that power is the power of choice, choosing which voice to listen to, because each emotion, whether it be fear or love, has its motivator. So which motivator are you listening to? And that's going to determine whether you're victorious or not in this life. This is very ancient wisdom, and I don't always get it right myself, but I do know that when I listen to that ancient wisdom, things work out for me. And when I don't listen to that ancient wisdom, things don't. And I'm sure that's going to be the truth for you as well. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, blessed be.